or you don't eat. This is the looming threat that Venezuelans are facing as voters head to the polls to elect a new National Assembly. Right now, it's led by opposition leader Juan Guaido, who is recognized as the Latin American country's interim president by more than 60 countries, including the United States. Today, the National Assembly is considered the last democratically elected body in the Venezuelan government because they're not controlled by current leader Nicolas Maduro's party. But Maduro is sending his paramilitary groups into Venezuelan slums and threatening to withhold government-subsidized food if locals don't come out to vote for an assembly that supports him. As a result, the opposition is boycotting the vote and taking their names off of the ballot because they claim that the results won't be legitimate. Well, this all, of course, comes as Venezuela is in the midst of a very serious humanitarian crisis. And joining us now from Caracas to break this down is correspondent Mary Trinimena. So, Mary, first of all, tell us about what it is like to live in Venezuela today. We constantly hear about the humanitarian crisis in the country, but how is this actually playing out?
Well, for many citizens, it is a very hard situation. And to put this in context, we have to say that Venezuelans live with a legal minimum wage of less than $2 a month. And not many Venezuela earns dollars. They earn bolivars. And here, hyperinflation is hitting hard many Venezuelans. But especially the conditions they are living are very hard with shortages of basic services. In many places, especially outside Caracas, there is no water, no enough electricity. For example, cities like Maracaibo spend 5 or 6 hours daily without electricity, and this is very hard for the citizen. Not even gas for cooking, and on top of that, shortages of gasoline in a country that is recognized all over the world for producing oil. So the condition and the situation that Venezuelans are facing are very hard with daily hardships, and many of them decided to leave the country, to fled the country. In the last 6 years, more than 5 million Venezuelans have left the country. Even in the middle of the pandemic, they decided to walk through the Colombian border with Venezuela in order to look for a new life.
So break down, what has been happening in this latest election for the National Assembly. What are Venezuelans actually voting on, and why are Guaido and the rest of Maduro's opposition boycotting this election?
It is the renewal of the authorities in front of the parliament. Venezuelans are set to elect 277 lawmakers, but this is a larger number than the previous assembly that had 167. It is 110 more lawmakers, and this is one of the rules that was recently changed. The opposition said the government orchestrated and tailor-made this election in order to favor Maduro. And what they did was to, for example, take their name and the brands of the main political party and to give them to people close to Maduro to make it look like opposition politicians are participating. You will see faces of minority opposition politicians participating in this event, but the mainstream political parties are not participating. They are calling for a boycott and also for a separate referendum in order to call this a fraud, an electoral fraud. They say the election was rigged from the beginning.
Well, Maduro's allies have threatened to keep food from people who don't vote. Can they actually do this? Couldn't withholding food actually lead to more people rising up against Maduro?
Well, this wasn't a direct threat made by the government. This was a reference that a member of the United Socialist Political Party, that is the Maduro's party, made. And after that, he said it was a joke, that women in the houses don't give food to their husband if they don't vote. But actually, it was a hidden message received by many of their followers. The government sent in monthly basis boxes with food to poor neighborhoods in Venezuela. Around 7 million of Venezuelans are beneficiaries of these boxes with food, but the decision of give that food to them is on local authorities, leaders of the communities. So if they want to keep people from receiving the box, they can do it that.
So quick answer on this. Obviously we're seeing many people calling for Maduro to step down, but nothing has really happened since, even though we see Guaido, considered the current interim leader of Venezuela. What are the chances of Maduro ever stepping down or being forced out of office?
For now, it is unlikely that Nicolás Maduro will step down. He is regaining more control over all the institutions inside the country, and he is trying to take more power with this election.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mary. Obviously, a very tough situation in Venezuela right now. We'll see what happens with this election.